Jesus Christ. Here's your proof that it's only teeny tiny people who can sit up like and do that cute like, hey guys, I'm super personal with the camera kind of angle. I can't do it. It's like, you want my head cut off? I'd have to be down here. Also, nobody needs my face that close to the camera. Maybe other people, not me. Maybe it's just me needing to not see that level of detail when I'm editing. Hello everyone. So this is already my second attempt at starting to record this video. My first attempt was so scattered I lost track of what I was talking about, despite the fact that I have notes. I'm trying this whole thing at the moment where I want to be a little bit more ad-lib, a little bit more relaxed in front of the camera, but the crazy thing is the camera makes that difficult. So prepare thyselves for some very neurodivergent, bad at sitting still kind of energy. Okay, so I want to just talk today. I have very loose notes, but I want to talk today about 2025. Maybe do, not quite a retrospective, but just talk about some favorites from the year. For context, as I stated in my last video, technically we bought a house and moved in the course of 2025. It does not perfectly map onto the calendar year that is January to December of 2025. The process of, strictly speaking, all the paperwork, submitting our offer, having the offer accepted, sale going through, and so on, was over a year. Actually, it was July-ish, 2024, July? August 2024, thereabouts. Again, it was like around Lunasa, actually, that's right, yeah, so all the way till about Lunasa of 2025. Moving took place, as I said in the last video, around Samhain 2025, and then obviously the last, bit of 2025 has been spent getting things organized, settling in, and so on. So my sense of time is definitely a bit skewed. There's a likelihood that I will mention things that technically apply to 2024, but for the life of me, I can't remember things like that anyway. It's very numbers based, and also I have not checked my journals to check the chronologies and so on. So for lack of a better designation, we're calling this a 2025 retrospective, especially because I didn't make a whole lot of videos. It's just me sort of babbling for a bit about what 2025 felt like, and then listing some things I enjoyed about it. So the moving process and the house buying process, as I indicated, was pretty prolonged. In a way that's a little bit unusual in Ireland, but also not that unusual because bureaucracy here and so on really sucks. As I said in my last video, there's no real need to go into the details around why that is. It just is what it is. We're very, very happy and very fortunate. We're very, very, very grateful to finally be here. We submitted our offer a year previous to the purchasing going through. So just to have actually had this house come through and not go back on the market was seriously important to me, and I'm really, really glad that it turned out that way. So one of the prevailing sensations of 2025 was essentially a sort of suspended animation, suspended anxiety. I would definitely say that I, as a person, and this is probably a neurodivergent characteristic, I as a person really struggle to do lots of involved things when there's one big thing kind of hanging over me, especially when it comes to time management. That kind of executive functioning stuff is very difficult for me. So for example, on the more micro level, if it's morning time and I know that I'm going to be meeting someone later in the day, but they're like the sort of person who's like, whenever, I'm like, well, if I don't know when I'm going to leave the house, then I can't do anything else. Especially because for me, the things I like to do are like, I'm going to get out these fabrics and then I'm going to start sewing, and I might need to repair a top that I'm planning to wear today, and so on and so forth. I don't know when to eat lunch if I'm going to be talking to somebody later, because for sensory reasons, that's difficult for me to understand, So as a micro example, apply that to the macro, I found that a lot of 2025 felt very, very suspended. It was difficult for me to regulate things like my spending. It was difficult for me to regulate my body. It was definitely difficult to continue living in our apartment. But overall, that process was actually very, very interesting to observe. There was a part of me that whole time that was kind of like from a distance, like regarding new behavior patterns that I was noticing in myself, regarding things I was doing well, things I wasn't doing so well. And while I wouldn't list that as like a 2025 favorite in a way, it was definitely a very interesting quality of 2025. And it's something now that is sort of feeding into the way I'm re-regulating, rerouting, and indeed redefining aspects of my life, especially in the context and in the environment of a new home. So that's kind of the context of a lot of 2025. Very, very confusing, very muddy time, very hazy in certain aspects, and just very buckle down and try to get this thing done, tunnel vision kind of component. And part of the reason I mention this is that I was having a conversation with my friend Luna over at Water Moon Cards, I think is what her channel is called now, and had been talking about year ahead spreads, and I kind of mentioned that I don't tend to do year ahead spreads, or rather I do year ahead spreads usually on December 31st or as close to that date as possible for the incoming year, but I don't often look at them until the year is over. And she had asked me, well then, what's the point of doing the spread if you don't even, like, you even forget what cards you got. You just like let that, like, what is the thing that you are doing with them, especially because she knows that my reading style, I often don't ask very, very specific questions. I have a very sort of neurodivergent, nonverbal relationship with the cards when I'm actually doing most of my readings. If it is a reading with a sort of structure, like, you know, designated positions and so on, then that's about as specific as it gets a lot of the time. Or, you know, for example, she also knows that sometimes I'll journal about something that I'm experiencing, and then the journal entry essentially serves as the question. And then I go to the cards, and then I'll write down the cards at the end of the journal entry without specifying further what the question is. So she was basically saying, like, what purpose do your year ahead spreads serve? And I want to make a whole video about that, actually, because especially in the context of 2025, where the year itself was so pressurized and so hazy and so tunnel vision in certain aspects and rather dysregulated in other aspects, I think that would make for an interesting conversation that I could probably do without having to get too personal, even if it means I'm sort of sampling certain months and just using them as examples. So that's kind of all the context that I want to cover first. I won't be discussing the year ahead spread thing in this video, but hopefully soon, if I can get my brain together. So, did I even say all that right? Did I finish all my thoughts? Tell me in the comments if I finished my fucking thoughts. So, I want to progress now on to 2025 favorites. I just want to mention some things that I know I really, really enjoyed. And that honestly, kind of at certain points, kept me going, kept me sane, kept me engaged with things that matter rather than things that don't matter, you know? So the first thing I want to mention are some YouTube channels that were just such a lovely, delicious part of my experience of 2025. I have to sneeze. Do I? The first thing I'll mention is discovering or rediscovering essentially a love of high fashion, fashion design specifically, and better defining my relationship to high fashion, haute couture, and what I think of fashion designers or design houses, and the industry that surrounds the individuals that make up, you know, design houses or teams, the ethos that surrounds certain designers and so on. I spent a good amount of time in my own way. It probably to other people would still be considered not so in-depth, a bit intro level in some ways. But I spent some time getting to better grips with, for example, the likes of Alexander McQueen and so on, which I imagine that a lot of people looking at me would think I really like. I can't fucking stand Alexander McQueen, the person and the designs, for specific reasons that if anybody's interested, I guess you could say so and I could talk about it sometime. But all of that being said, I like Sarah Burton's work for Alexander McQueen rather than, like, I don't like Lee McQueen. I like Sarah Burton for Alexander McQueen. Anyway, all that being said, I developed my own playlist, inspired by one of the channels I'm going to mention. I developed my own playlist, private playlist of some of my favorite fashion shows, haute couture, runway shows, vintage and current. That was really, really fun to curate, and I'm still building on it. So just a quick mention. Some of my favorites, and I'm sure I'll forget and immediately get irritated that I forgot somebody, but some of my favorites are Guo Pei, Dries Van Noten, or Noten, which is of course not haute couture. You know what? I'll just leave a list because I'm already really annoyed that I'm not bringing words to mouth very quickly in front of camera, as I almost never do. So forget the list that I was going to say and look in the description, and maybe I'll talk about it sometime. But that being said, therefore, the channels that I really liked, I love the channel Understitch. If anyone's interested in, among other things, fashion history, but also like business analysis or like capitalistic endeavors, commentary and analysis, in-depth explorations of like famous companies, fashion houses. They also have a channel called Underskin, but Understitch is the one that I'm the most familiar with. I subscribe to both. Full disclosure, all of the channels I'm about to mention, I do also support them on Patreon. So Understitch, super, super amazing. The video that got me by far the most hooked, that was just so cool, so like higgledy-piggledy and so in-depth and so fascinating, was, I forget exactly what it was called, but it was The Life and Death of Elsa Schiaparelli. I love Schiaparelli. Daniel Roseberry's work for Schiaparelli is gorgeous. So, yeah, Understitch. Another favorite channel is Lonnie's Lens. Kaylani over at Lonnie's Lens discusses a lot of modern pop culture. Music, TV shows, movies, things of that nature from a feminist, queer, and BIPOC lens, and just provides such fascinating commentary on things that normally would not exactly be in my wheelhouse. I'm not a massive movie watcher. I definitely don't watch modern TV almost at all. Music, a little bit different, but I find her soothing. I find her challenging. I find her so nuanced and intelligent and deeply enjoyable to listen to. So, yeah, Lonnie's Lens is well worth the exploration. And then the third channel I want to mention for now is an old favorite. It's a favorite every year, really, and is indispensable to my sewing journey, is The Closet Historian. Such an amazing aesthetic, such an amazing consistency of content, such a generosity with resources, both in terms of skill sets and how to sew. She's recently been updating all of her sort of teaching videos about how to approach pattern drafting your own clothes. Makes it so understandable and so approachable. But also, I believe her most recent video, as of the time of filming that I'm aware of, is one that lists a lot of the places where she personally gets her some of her favorite types of fabrics. There's great cat content over there. And as someone who's also like decorating my house like crazy now, her house decoration videos from the last year kept me going with a lot of like vicarious staring at the beautiful art historical references that she was putting onto her walls. So if anybody's interested in any of those sorts of topics and more, definitely go check out The Closet Historian. Totally indispensable to my sewing journey. She just makes everything so much more understandable, so much easier to approach and to break down and to realize that you can indeed do the thing. Okay, Jesus Christ. Been talking for almost 15 minutes. So the next thing I want to mention are some favorite experiences of 2025. This is decidedly incomplete as a list. I just went with whatever popped into my head the other day as I was jotting these things down on this ridiculous little envelope. One of the things that I've been working on quite a lot over the past year, actually more than a year, is redeveloping my own understanding of how I explore modern music in particular. Without going into too much detail, I grew up in an environment and surrounded by people, including friends, who were pretty prohibitive in terms of like people being allowed to A, explore music that they like, especially if their tastes are dark and macabre, and B, do so without like being mocked all the time. Like if you made a mistake with a music reference, you'd get like purposefully kind of teased and laughed at, and just, I grew up in an environment that was either very controlling about music from like a standards perspective and a snobbery perspective. I was not allowed to listen to music out loud at home unless I was the one cooking dinner or unless I was exercising. And then like socially, I wasn't allowed to explore music either because nobody would talk to me about anything I liked and everybody talked to me like I was an idiot about music, which is hilarious. So I've been really, really enjoying exploring music. I have been doing this in various ways. I've been developing friendships here that involve a lot of chit chat about music, sharing music references. So there's a few, for example, musical groups that I kind of, in many cases, belatedly discovered this year that came about sort of organically as part of being somewhere where music was being played, chatting to someone about it, getting that recommendation from them, discussing what that was about, and so on. That felt really supportive and really nice. So one such example is Clipping is absolutely now a favorite group. And in particular, Visions of Bodies Being Burned. That album I've been listening to nonstop for like months and months and months and months. I love it. I love it so hard. It is so cool. And anyone who's familiar with it already, which you will be, I'm very late to that particular game. Again, I didn't go with the most recent album. I went with the album that like I just organically discovered as part of that conversation. And as a result of that conversation, that's not even their most recent album, but like, oh, I love it so much. So anyone who knows obviously already knows. Other favorite albums of the last year, again, not necessarily published during 2025, just enjoyed deeply during 2025, would be Engines of Hell by Emma Ruth Rundle is the stuff of life. The music video, along with the actual song for, what's it called? Is it called Engine of Hell? No, it's not. It's In My Afterlife. The music video for that, like if anyone is ever wondering what my nightmares looked like as a kid, basically that video. That video is like what I'm like on the inside. That was the most relatable fucking thing I've ever seen in a long, long, long time, actually. So if anybody really wants to get a sense of what I mean when I say weird cityscapes meets medieval, like strange laughing children, that video plus like the Trionfi de la Luna and some of the tarot aesthetics that I've liked over time, that is it. That's what I'm talking about. Long, strange hallways, strange like little demon friends who are also deeply alone and terrifying in the dark. Absolutely. Dorthia Cottrell was a major feature of the past year. I mean, obviously. What else? God. So much. So much. I'll leave the mention at those for now. Let's see. Also, as part of the musical aspect of things, I had, for a good while there, the move has disrupted this. I've been attending Mixtress Ray's Friday night radio shows pretty much weekly for a really good amount of time there, and drinking absinthe. Do I have it? I have one of my bottles here. Absinthe while dancing for 3 hours. In Irish time, that's 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. With like sparkly projectors and candles and things going, and chatting about music the whole time, which has been delightful. Really, really special. Talk about, like, that's a potent way to read tarot. Drink some absinthe with strange lit, like, colored lamps in the dead of night, while chatting with a friend. Good times. And dancing the whole time too, so good workout as well. Yeah, just chatting about music, getting to explore things, listening to new music, dancing to new music. It's been fantastic, fantastic. Easily, hands down, one of my favorites of the year. So yeah, I have tarot, dance, absinthe, moving house. Obviously, we recently got kittens, and that was very much towards the tail end of 2025 after having moved house. But what I want to talk about more particularly with that was the experience of getting kittens essentially with friends, going to view the kittens with friends, going to the foster parents were so supportive of our kitten adopting journey, allowed us to visit multiple times before the kittens finally came to our houses, so we didn't, miss them too much. And just doing that with friends and talking about the logistics, and I don't know, that felt very special, still feels very special to essentially, like, our kittens are extended siblings, well, literal siblings in the case of one of them, but extended siblings in terms of fostering and so on. And that felt fantastic. That felt really good. We had a few nights out drinking afterwards as well. Heading to the arcade, all sorts of stuff, all to do surrounding the getting of kittens. As the year wound towards Christmas, I was just able to focus on kittens and fairy lights and good times, and I really enjoyed that. That felt very, very, very special, very important. Let's see. So terribly pasty and pale. Anyway, editing Saoirse here to say that I forgot to mention another favorite thing, which is that I got a very intensive tattoo done that covers about 1/4 of my body, from my ankle up all the way to my above my waistline, and towards the front and the back a bit. It's a continuation of my bramble motif and theme, yeah, that was very intense, but I got both the line work and the color work done in the past year, and I definitely want to get it extended. That was awesome, and I really like my tattoo artist, so there's that too. Let's see. So as an ending point, because this video is getting long enough now and chatty enough now and lacking enough in structure, are you guys surprised that in the past I definitely tended to use notes? Because this is what it's like normally. Unstructured, stuttery, and extremely distractible and wiggly. And embarrassed about it. So the last thing I'll mention about 2025 for now, anyway, again, none of this has been exhaustive, is, I guess, yeah, material items and goods. It was a bit of a dysregulated year, I think I've already said, in terms of spending. I think I got very flustered and frustrated about the tunnel vision and the intensity of trying to buy the house in a way that did dysregulate me elsewhere. It's been very interesting identifying that as it's been going on, and sort of like slowing that down and getting back to what I feel is much more normal and natural for me, much more focused, which is a little bit more, definitely more my happy place. But I definitely got to support some great, artisans and creators. So one of the things I definitely prioritized in terms of what I was sort of acquiring during the year was jewelry. I really enjoyed looking around for quirky handmade things, vintage things, things with body parts, eyeballs, teeth. Like I have a bracelet now that has like a full set of false teeth, not false eyelashes, false teeth in it, that I got from an Irish independent maker. I also have various beaded things that I really enjoyed procuring, various like bugs and insects. I have glow-in-the-dark spiders. All of that sort of thing has been super interesting and fun to explore. As part of that, I've also been exploring even further. I've mentioned this before, but I've been exploring even further the world of cosmetics, and I've started making some of my own. I don't know if it's coming across on camera because I'm sitting so far away from the camera, but I'm currently wearing my own lip balm, which is like a cochineal, mica powder, and some purple vegan sparkles, using sort of beeswax and almond oil and things of that sort. I started making my own beeswax candles. So the candles on my altar currently are the last of my batch from the last time I made it in the old apartment. I'm actually overdue for making candles. Maybe I'll do that with the rest of this afternoon. I'll make some candles or something. But yes, making my own candles has been a thing. In Ireland, getting beeswax is easier than most products to get to Ireland because there's a lot of beekeepers, and honey purveyors and wax sellers in Ireland. It's like certain types of wool and bee products are definitely gettable here. So that's good. Not all the types of wool, but definitely certain types of wool. Actually, on that note, knitting. I made my first pair of socks in the past year, and I've since made a bunch of pairs of socks, and I do not want to buy socks ever again, except if it's from a particular independent maker that I'm connected to on, that I've used before on Etsy for various fabric dyeing materials. They definitely have some really lovely plant dyed linen socks that feel fantastic and that keep my feet feeling really, really good. But yeah, so knitting, candles, jewelry, exploring the world of homemade cosmetics, that is ongoing. There's the hair oils. Next, I want to make certain products for my face other than the lip balm. I explored a bit making my own, I think I did talk about this at one point. I explored making my own nail polishes and picking weird off the beaten track colors, because I've realized I basically want to like be healthy and so on, but I want to unsettle people more than I already do. I want the colors to be just slightly off, just very slightly corpse, you know? So there's that. It's like various historical references meet like all of the different types of Gothic mushed together with big hair, which 80s definitely did big hair with the Gothic. Anyway, and then the last thing I want to show before I run out of time is, if I can get it, is it here? Oh God. Dead stock wool from Dries Van Noten. Now, I do not know what collection or year this is offcast from. I have been having a hard time identifying the company that I got this from is a dead stock supplier in Europe, and did confirm when I asked them via email that this is in fact from Dries Van Noten. They gave me a rough year range, but they said that once, basically that the fashion houses, various ones, only give them dead stock after a certain amount of time has passed. So they were able to confirm the fashion house, and they were able to confirm a most recent year that it could have been. But I have yet to find this in any of the collections from, loosely speaking, around then. But supposedly this is a wool blend jacquard fabric from 2020-ish or before from Dries Van Noten. But either way, I'm obsessed because it has this pattern. I don't know if I can show it on camera. There we go. That looks either like scales or like feathers. And as you can see, I have a good amount of it, and I want to make a coat out of it. I actually, if I remember, I will also film and show this, but I was able to get a secondhand coat, vintage secondhand from the 80s. It's an opera coat. Much cheaper than trying to get an ill-fitting, definitely not wool coat on the high street that actually fits me, because it is one of those like 1920s shaped 80s coats that's very, very big and baggy. So, you know, my hips actually fit in that coat. So that was my winter coat this year, because my old medieval kirtle coat that I made no longer, like I'm too big in the bust now, essentially, for that. So when winter rolled around, I needed a coat. I got myself that secondhand opera coat, and I also procured this wool, and I'm going to make myself a coat, probably a very 1880s inspired tailored coat that has like a black feather and scale quality to it. And I'm very excited. I have plans. I have pin boards. I have patterning ideas. I'm going to make a mock-up. It's going to be good. My thing's about to stop filming, I think. So that's a great place to shut the fuck up. I hope everyone is doing well, taking care of themselves to the best of their ability, and being kind. I remembered what I used to say. And I'll see you all next time. Hope this wasn't too cringe. Bye.
Yeah.